Here on the Beniverse, I never find myself in the position to talk international films. I'm always so behind on the films being released domestically that I just never get to check out the ones being released internationally. However, I did make time this week for a Tollywood film that has garnered much discussion and love. So without further ado, I am talking the new Tollywood film that was released internationally in March and just made its way to Netflix these past few weeks, RRR. Hello, my name is Ben Friedman, and today I am talking the newest released Tollywood film, RRR, which stands for Rise, Roar, Revolt. It is an epic historical fiction action drama directed by S.S Rajamouli. The film stars N.T. Rama Rao Jr. and Ram Charan and follows two real-life Indian revolutionary figures, Raju and Bheema, as they fight against the British Raj in the 1920s. RRR is an over-the-top, humorous, heartfelt, and exciting film, and it is a film where in one scene there can be tigers attacking the British, rooms full of TNT exploding, and insane slow-mo action that would make Zack Snyder jealous. Often in RRR, our heroes are superheroes. They defy all logic and physics. And then in the next scene, there would be a huge dance number with elaborate choreography. It has something for everyone. And wow, did I have a lot of fun with this film. And let me just start off with my criticisms of the film because they're far and few, so I just figured I'd get them out of the way. RRR is a 3-hour and 5-minute runtime. It does not have to be this long. I would say the first hour there is especially a lot of stuff that could have been cut from the runtime that would have made the film's story more conducive and allowed its pace to pick up quite a bit. I think a lot of stuff within the first hour does set up the world very well, but it is overabundant and the film does become a little bit just too much of everything, and it is a bit exhausting. I had to watch this film in about 4 sittings, where I would do about 45 minutes each. But what does happen is the film does pick up quite a bit, and by the last hour and a half, I think nothing needed to be cut. I think it's a perfect movie. It just took a little bit of time to get to those scenes. And I mentioned that the film can be exhausting with its 3 hours and 5-minute runtime. Some of the reasons that is because this film is jumping. It's because this film is jumping time periods. So we do find ourselves in one scene and then the next scene in a completely different time period. And then we're following a different character and then the character's past and then back to the present, cutting back to the past. And it can just become exhausting trying to follow that all. That all happens again really in the first hour and a half of this film. I think that can also just lead to an element of you feeling exhausted watching this film and really having to pay attention to understand what is going on within this film and keep everything straight, because then when they do come back in the third act, they all do really matter, and those stories that do happen have the significance. You just have to make sure you're paying attention to get those special rewards and payoffs within the third act. And my last criticism of the film is a few of the ancillary characters just are underutilized. And this is, again, an issue that comes in the first hour and a half of the film. There is a character who is supposed to be one of the revolutionaries, Bheema specifically, his love interest, played by Olivia Morse, and her character does just get forgotten halfway through the film. And there's a few characters like that where they seem like such an important thing at the beginning of the film, and then by the end of the film, it really becomes these two heroes' stories, and everything else about those other ancillary characters are forgotten. So those are my main criticisms for RRR, and I wanted to just get them out of the way so I can then just praise the film for the rest of it. RRR is epic in every sense of the word. From its scale, from its action, and its effects, everything just feels so grandiose and elevated, and it's so flawlessly directed by S.S Rajamouli throughout. If I had to compare his direction style for anyone who is unfamiliar with his work, like myself, I would describe it as a nice blend between Quentin Tarantino and Zack Snyder, and let me explain that. Tarantino is known for that historical fiction bending like in Inglourious Bastards, which, by the way, S.S Raj said that was an inspiration Inglorious Bastards was an inspiration for RRR, and you can really feel it with its historical fiction and its bending of facts. And it also just has the sensibilities that I think are found within films like 300 or even Zack Snyder's later work with the DCEU. There's a lot of these slow-mo effects, and there's kind of this scale to the action where these characters feel almost godly. To summarize that, I say that the mythology within this film, because these are supposed to be true real life figures, RRR talks about these two Indian revolutionary figures the same way Braveheart talks about William Wallace. However, in Braveheart, where it is simply we hear the mythology surrounding this man and the legendary feats he's achieved, and then we find out that he really is a man. This film makes them out to be the mythological beings, and they do this to encompass the whole effect of the fight against the British rule in the 1920s. They are subsequently standing for something bigger within this film, and they are also describing the everyday efforts made by people to fight the British rule. And from top to bottom, the performances are great in this film. Rama Raju and Bheema have just a natural friendship. It makes everything feel authentic, and it makes their journey feel real because these characters go through trials and tribulations where they are tested individually and as to them together. And it makes this journey that they go on feel more epic and more defined. We can really ground ourselves in the over the top nature with these two characters' relationships that almost feels brother like. And it gives us, as the audience, the ability to attach on to these characters and feel something authentic in an otherwise over the top world. And the film also has a great villainous performance from Ray Stevenson. Now, for American audiences, you might know Ray Stevenson as the Punisher in The Punisher Warzone. He is a Scottish actor who has had films released in America, in England, and throughout. He decided to sign on for this movie and allowed audiences outside of India to attach on to somebody they know. In this movie, Ray Stevenson plays the British governor to very effective measures. He's terrible in this film in the sense of just how mean and cruel he is, and he's the perfect antagonist to go about the story, and again represents something bigger, which is the British crown in this film. And I think the reason RRR is resonating with audiences so well, especially abroad, is it's because it takes itself so seriously, despite its ridiculous action and plot points. It never feels cheesy for cheesy's sake. Everything is given dignity and honor throughout this film, despite just how over the top crazy this film is in its action. This is a film where our heroes are taking out armies by themselves with just merely a bow and arrow, yet it all feels real. They all take it very seriously to give it this epic feeling that these two men were truly just warriors and fighters through and through, and that they took down the British army together. And in doing so, it makes RRR feel unique. It embraces its ridiculous nature. It never tries to feel of this world, and it's not afraid to have fun, but it also manages to tell an emotionally compelling story. But it never just relies on its humor to give it its fun attitude. I think so often, we specifically as American audiences, fun and humor can feel so tied together that if a movie is lacking jokes, it doesn't feel like it has a fun attitude. And yes, while jokes can definitely help give a film a fun attitude, that is not what makes a film always fun. And in this case, it is the over the top action. It is the ridiculous nature and scale of this film. It is the just balls to the wall craziness on display. It's the over the top performances from Ray Stevenson and the other British royalty. It is all of these things working in tangent that makes for a film that just feels so original, and one that I think audiences are truly craving. So it's not a surprise that this movie is popping off everywhere, especially with American audiences where films can often feel so much of the same. And I hope that filmmakers around the world embrace styles of film like this and really just embrace the fun nature with it, but while also telling a compelling story about friendship, about rebellion, and about love and fighting for what you love. This film does so much right, and it's such its own style, and it is so exciting that I just had a blast spending time in this historical setting. I am giving RRR 3 out of 4 stars. If you have the time, and trust me, I know 3 hours is a lot of time to devote to a movie, but even if you just break it up in 2 to 3 sittings, check out RRR. I think you are going to have a ton of fun with this film, and I think you are going to be in amazement of the scale and direction within said movie. And if you do check it out on Netflix, let me know what you think. My name is Ben Friedman here from the Beniverse. Thank you all for listening. Take care. Bye bye.